My name is Deborah, and guess what? We're going to start reviewing a new show called The One. The One that is coming on TV One. I know I told y'all it was coming on. I don't know if any of you guys watched it, but I watched it. Found out I don't even have TV One on my cable, but I was able to find the first episode on YouTube. So what I'll do is I'll put the link down below in my description box if you haven't seen it. Hopefully it's still up. I don't know if they're going to copyright strike it and, get rid of it. But it will be down. The link will be down in my description box if you don't have TV One or whatever. Because before I pay for the season, I just want to make sure that I'm going to even like the show. We was all skeptical. I was skeptical. I didn't know what was going to go on. I didn't know if I would like it. We got Kirk Franklin and his wife, Tammy. I think her name is Tammy. They're playing the matchmakers. And I think what was getting people bothered a little bit was the fact that you got Kirk Franklin, who's supposed to be about Jesus and God. And people are kind of concerned that he's mixing this with some non-holiness stuff with his matchmaking. But let me tell you, it wasn't bad, people. It really wasn't bad. And they also got Brent from Ready to Love season. I don't know. It was early. I don't know what season he was. And I didn't know if I would like him either because I was trying to remember what I did or didn't like about Brent. I think Brent was just kind of boring back on the last Ready to Love. I don't think there was anything that I was like, ugh, I don't like him. I don't remember that. So I didn't really kind of have any kind of feelings, any kind of way about Brent. And then they got a new young lady. Her name is Ashley. She's 37. She's going to be the other young lady on the show. Now, this show is kind of set up, I think, more like maybe like more like The Bachelor. It's not like Ready to Love. It's more like The Bachelor because what they're doing is they have two single people, a male and a female single person, which is Brent and also Ashley. And what they did this episode was they started sending them out on dates. So the goal of these dates is to narrow down the 6 top people that are going to move into the mansion with them. So it's going to eventually be a mansion with Brent and Ashley in the mansion. And then both Brent and Ashley will have 6 people that they've chosen to live in the mansion with them. They'll get to know all 6 men and women, and then they will get to choose the one. But to get to the people in the mansion, what they're doing is they're sending each of these people, Brent and Ashley, out on these dates where they date 2 people at a time. So this episode, Brent dated 2 ladies or went out on a date with 2 ladies. They had one date where they actually went out and another date or time period where they kind of just sat around and played a game night. And Ashley did the same thing. Ashley had a separate date with 2 people, and then they came back and had a sit down and a game night. And then at the end of the show, they chose between their 2 dates, they chose the person they wanted to move into the mansion. And I guess they're going to do that again next week till eventually they've chosen 6 people. So that is how it works. So my review is mainly going to be on the show. And I'll tell you, I enjoyed it. It kept my attention the whole time. I didn't have anything that wouldn't make me want to come back and see episode 2. So I want to see, are y'all going to watch the show with me? Please, sure, if the actual link is in the description box, please watch it with me. If you have TV One, please watch it with me because you guys know that it ain't no fun watching these shows without nobody else watching them with you. So I really want y'all to go along with me on this. At least try episode 1. Try it for me. Try it for Deborah. If I'm your girl, please just try it for me. Just 1 episode, please. So to refresh our memory on Brent. So Brent's 43. I don't know how old he was back when he was on Ready to Love, but he's 43 now. He like the silver fox. He's 43. He loves to work out. And he's a real estate commercial advisor. That's what he's doing. He talks about how he went to North Carolina, AT&T. He played football. He's been out in these streets. Brent has been out in these streets. He's 43 years old. I think he said he has been married, but he doesn't have any kids. I think his marriage was short. And one of the things that Kirk Franklin said that he was worried about with Brent was, can Brent put up his player shoes? He was saying a man like Brent, and I agree with Kirk Franklin on this, a man like Brent, who is now 43 years old, been out in these streets, running around, dating random women, having his pick of women because he's a good-looking guy. He's got a nice body. He seems to have a nice job. He doesn't have any glaring, like he's a mean person or anything. which means it's not hard for Brent to get dates out here. And Kirk Franklin was saying the same thing I'm saying. What's it going to take for him to settle down? If he ain't settled down all this time for 43 years and picked a woman, what makes us believe that this process of dating these multiple women is going to make him settle down? And I'm with Kirk Franklin on this. I think it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be hard for a person like Brent to really put up his player shoes. Some of these men like to stay out here in the dating world and exercise their options until they're well into their 50s. Some of them into their 60s. So I'm not for sure at 43, Brent is ready. Brent is ready to stop. He says he wants a family, and so maybe that's what's going to make him want to stop. And he's got these different types of rules that he wants for women. He says he prefers no women with 0 kids, but he says he'll take a woman with 1. See, here's the thing about waiting to get married until you're 40 years old. Because once you're 40 something, 43 years old, the chances are that a lot of people in your age group are already going to have kids or had kids. That's one of the downsides to waiting late to have kids or waiting late to get married. I know we always talk about the good sides, the part of, you can establish yourself in your career, that you can, stack up your money so you can be able to afford kids. You can be able to afford to have a good life and not be a struggling parent. Those are all, you can mature. You can kind of live your life a little bit so you don't feel like you gave all your youth away to have kids young. There's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of pros and cons to having children young and having children later, getting married young and getting married later. That's why it's not, for me, I don't think it's a one size fits all. It really isn't a do as I say, don't do as I do. It really isn't a one size fits all. But I will say that one of the downsides is if you are a person who has decided you don't want to marry a man or a woman with children, if that is your big deal, that you don't want to marry a man or a woman with kids, then you need to get married sooner than later. You need to settle down sooner or later. If you are a person out here now and you say, well, I don't want to get married soon now in my 20s or even in my early 30s, and I want to, go after my career, chase my career, and this is for men or women, then what you need to be prepared for is by the time you're ready to get married at 36, 37, you got to count on the fact that everybody didn't run the race you did. There are a lot of people who already have kids. There are a lot of people who've had marriages that they're now divorced, and now they have kids coming out of those marriages. And sometimes they have kids coming out of places where they didn't have marriages. So you really have to think about what you want. You know what? It's 6 and 6. If you don't want to partner with a person who already has kids, you better start thinking about getting married earlier in life. You really ought to start thinking about this, because now you got a lot of people who are now in their 40s ready to get married talking about they don't want to date nobody with no kids. And that's what Brent's over here talking about. And at the most, he wants 1 kid. So next thing you know, so now he wants a woman in shape, a woman that's beautiful, a woman that's smart, got her career going, and a woman with no kids. He should have got married earlier. He should have got married earlier. He says he wants a woman that's smart and she's ambitious. And then they asked him what's going to be his top 5. What's his top 5 things he wants in a woman? And the number 1 thing he says is he wants a feminine woman, which is kind of weird. He said which is not weird that he wants a feminine woman, but he said he wanted a feminine woman. But then the first date he went on with women was boxing. If you want a feminine woman, then why are you taking her to go boxing? It was really weird how they set up these dates. I didn't think that was a good first date. If I'm a female, I'm not for sure if I want the first date for me to be with a man is a boxing in a gym, sweating out my hair and sweating and all this other kind of stuff. So women got to really, I think it kind of put women in an odd situation, because in one way he wants a feminine woman, but then the first date is taking these women on a date where they're showing their masculinity, a boxing and hitting the what you call them things? Hitting the bag. If you want a feminine woman, you should allow her to dress up and be feminine. Why are you making her put on some sweatpants and come to a gym and breaking nails and hitting the bag? But you know what? He got to go out with these 2 different women. One was called Melissa. I think Lisa for short, Melissa. And then another one was called Michelle. And it's interesting because he said he wanted a woman that was fit and a woman that was athletic, a woman that was feminine. So you got these 2 women. And remember, he said he didn't want no woman with kids. And then later on, he says he'll take one with one. But I think he did that because the girl he really wanted to choose between Melissa and Michelle, she had a child. Because if you really look at it, he should have chose Michelle. But I think what he went with was physical attraction. He went with physical attraction because really, when you looked at what he was looking for, Michelle was the one. She was a personal trainer, which means she's probably in shape, likes to go in shape. And then, she also didn't have any children, right? Which what he was saying. The other young lady was Melissa. She had one child and she was a hairstylist. But you know what? She brought the sexy. Melissa brought the sexy with the dress, the outfit, everything. She brought the sexy. And I believe in the end, that's what he went for. He tried to say it was because of the answer Michelle wanted. Because Michelle, he asked them both, hey, do you want any kids? And Michelle said, yeah. He said, well, how many? She said one, maybe two. And he supposedly wants 3 children, but he's 43. So I guess he's going to be having children all the way up until he's damn near 50. Okay. Who wants a 65-year-old parent? 43, starting on your first child and you want 3 kids? That means what? You're going to have a child every year or you're going to be having children all the way up until you darn near 50 years old. So when your child is 18, you 68 years old. And then your kid's gonna be like, oh, I got the oldest. I got like your grandparents are like my daddy. People need to think this stuff out. He needs to think this stuff out. If you're having 43 years old and you are just now he ain't even starting at 43. Remember, he ain't married. He ain't picked no woman. He's 43 years old, ain't picked a woman, ain't married, which means odds are, even if he found his woman on this show, odds are he ain't even gonna have his first child till he's 45. Which means if he wants 3 children, he's going to be damn near 50 years old. People just talk. People just talk and they don't think it out. And then because Michelle said she wanted to maybe only have 1 or 2 kids, he all of a sudden made that an excuse why he chose Melissa, because Melissa said she wanted 3 kids because she already got 1, and that lined up with what he wanted. It was a lie. It was a lie. He chose Melissa for looks and the fact that she's got probably a little bit more spunk to her, but they both Sagittarius. I guess they say Sagittarius are spunky. I don't know the zodiac signs. They said Sagittarius are spunky, so I'm sure Michelle was spunky too. But I think what the difference was Melissa was bringing the sex appeal, because Brent needs to get off this idea that he's gonna have 3 kids starting at 45 to 50. He actually should have been with Michelle. Michelle said, I want 1 or 2. And she said, well, if you want me to have 3 kids, then you're gonna have to be with me in the gym, making sure that I keep my body right and my body tight. That's the other thing. You want a woman having 3 kids, but you also want her to be a fit, feminine. He got a whole list of things he wants. And let me tell you, a lot of the stuff don't even make sense. A lot of the things don't even go together. This is why he's single, because his list is probably unrealistic. That's what I'm going to say. I'm quite sure his list is unrealistic. He wanted her feminine. He wanted her fine. He said he wanted her a spiritual base. He wants to be good friends with her, and he wants her to have a whole lot of forgiveness. Why? Because you a whole lot of mess up. You a whole lot of mess up. That's why you need a lot of forgiveness. Even Kirk Franklin picked up on that. Kirk Franklin said, forgiveness? What you need a lot of forgiveness for? You must be planning on messing up a lot. I'm with Kirk Franklin. That's exactly what I thought when I heard him say he needs a woman with a whole lot of forgiveness. Kirk Franklin and Tammy been married, 27 years? So they're going to bring, I think, a lot of experience to the table. And we know their marriage has been public. So we know they've gone through a lot in their marriage. They know how to work through some stuff because they've had to work through some things. So I suspect that they'll be able to coach them. And I kind of like the role that they were doing. There was one point in the show where Tammy was able to kind of just talk privately to the young lady, Ashley, by herself, kind of give her some womanly advice. I like that. I do like the idea that you're having both a male and a female counsel and coach the men and the women. I do like that idea. So far, I'm telling you, I enjoyed the show. That's why I'm hoping y'all gonna watch it with me. And then you had the girl Ashley. We're gonna move in and talk about Ashley. I liked Ashley. She was a pretty young lady, very smart. She's a chemist. She's 37. She's from somewhere back south. Oh no, she's from Georgia, but another little small town in Georgia, country town, she says. But she moved. She's been in Atlanta now for a long period of time. What did Chelsea want? I mean, not Chelsea. I keep calling her Chelsea. Ashley. What did Ashley want? Let me look at. Oh, she wanted a person that was God-fearing, loyal, honest, respectful, and emotional mature. And you know what? Another thing I liked was that Kirk Franklin told her, you need to have a physical attribute on there that you like. And what he said was, you know, a lot of women are taught just to look for things like God-fearing, honest, loyal. And it's not that those things aren't needed, but he said women need to also recognize that they also have a need to be attracted physically to their husbands. And he's told her, his advice for her was, Ashley, you also need to put something on there that does mention some type of physical attribute that you want, because let's not play around and act like it doesn't play a role. He basically was saying, why is it okay for men to be able to talk about physical attributes, but it's not okay for women to? And so he advised her, you know, put something on there that does speak to physical attributes. Now, do we want it to be all superficial? No, but we also don't want women to act like they or don't have any sort of physical attributes requirements. Do we want it all to be shallow? No, but you should put on there that you want some type of sort of attractiveness to your husband. I do agree with that, but I don't agree when women use real petty things like 6 inches, like some other show I'm watching over here. I need a man with 6 inches. Now that becomes ridiculous. And then I don't always agree when short women who are 5'2" need a man that's 6'4". I don't agree with that. But actually, she's tall. She's tall, so I don't see there would be any problem with Ashley saying, you know what, I'm tall, so I would also want a man that's at least my height. And I don't know how tall she is, but I would think that there's no problem with her saying that would be one of her top 5, that if she's 5'9", 5'10", however tall she is, she doesn't want to date a man that's 5'5". I don't have no problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. So I actually did like the fact that Kirk Franklin told her that it's okay for you to put something like that on your list. But Ashley is 37. She's another one. She doesn't want a man with any kids. What else was she saying that she wanted? I can't remember, but she did have 2 guys that she went out on a date with. They were Mike and Brian. Mike and Brian. Brian, look good Lord, I thought he was like a Chewbacca or somebody from the forest. Him and that woolly beard, and he had the hair come down. It's a lot. It was a lot going on in the facial area. But I believe Brian, if he pulled his hair back, if he took his dreads or twists or whatever he's got and put them in a ponytail and he trimmed that beard, I think he would be a very good looking man. I bet you he's a very good looking man. I think right now he just looks like he's been living off the grid. He looks like he's been living off the grid for a good 4 or 5 years, somewhere back in Georgia in a tiny house. Brian looked like he'd been living off the grid with no electricity, no water, no nothing, in a tiny house back in the woods of Georgia. He says he's a business owner, but we don't know what kind of business owner. Stop putting people's professions as business owner. Tell us what kind of business owner he is. What does he do? Because sometimes when I hear business owner, I be thinking, do you have a real job? Do you have a steady paycheck? Do you have money coming in consistently? Because a lot of people now out here, they're starting to use this term as entrepreneur and business owner to really cover up the fact that they underemployed and their money is spotty. I'm going to say it. They're trying to use this term entrepreneur and business owner to mean that their money is spotty. They don't have no steady paycheck. I need to know what you do. If you're a business owner, then you need to say what you do. You're a business owner and you do what? You're a landscaper? You're a contractor? What are you? Are you a barber? What do you do? Are you a nail tech? Are you a hairstylist? Do you own a salon? Are you an advisor? Are you a consultant? What is your business? I need to know that. I just don't want to hear a business owner. But Ashley said she didn't want no man with kids, but then she got this one man. Like I said, Mike, he's good looking. He was good looking, got the muscles coming and everything. And he said he got 2 kids from a previous woman, but then he didn't marry her. I guess they were long-term relationship, but he called her the mother of his children. He never said that she was a wife. So he was able to have 2 kids with a woman, be with her a long time, but he never married her. She better look deeper. I know that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And the fact that he was only broken up with the women for a couple of months. No, you ain't ready. I'm not getting with no man that just broke up with the mother of 2 of his kids, and you only been out here dating for a couple of months. You're a no. You are a no. And then another thing. Remember I was talking about the date that Brent went on with his two women because he said that he likes feminine women, but then they went boxing. Maybe because he likes boxing, but he wants a feminine woman, but he took him boxing. And then next thing you know, Michelle was hitting that boxing bag a little bit too hard, probably didn't make her look too feminine. And then next thing you know, he didn't choose her. And now you got the opposite. You got Ashley over here taking her two men a salsa dancing. So you got the women going boxing, and you got the women taking the men dancing. So you got both genders. I know I ain't into these gender roles. I get it. But it seemed odd that you had the men doing something like dancing, trying to learn salsa lessons, and then you got the women over here boxing. Seemed kind of weird. The men were not in their element, not at all. They couldn't put their best foot forward. And you know, men like to impress women. So I would see how it'd be kind of hard for men to impress women at something that they don't know how to do. I don't know. I didn't like the choice of the first dates. I really didn't. I thought if anything, maybe they should have reversed the roles. Maybe they should have reversed the dates. But Brian said, you know what? I don't have no problem competing for a woman's attention. I know how to compete. I heard that, Brian. Brian was saying all the right things. And in the end, that's who she chose. That is who she chose. She ended up choosing Brian as the one to move into the mansion over Mike. And I think she made the right choice. I think she moved the right person on. Because Brian is one of those people where initially you might need to look past the beard and look past the twist covering his face because there might be some potential behind there. But he was worth to continue to look a little more, especially because you need to find out what business owner means. What's your business, Brian? What is your business? He's a little younger than her. He's 34 and she's 37. But I don't know. We'll have to get into some more deep and ask him some questions on if he is ready to be married at 34. I will say this about Ashley, though. One of the things I notice, which I always notice about women, I notice when women go on dates if they shake hands. I'm telling you, women, stop shaking men's hands when you're on a date. Save handshakes for business meetings. When you are on a date and you're meeting a person for a first time in which you're trying to establish a romantic relationship, possibly, then stop shaking their hand because that sets the tone for the date. And I didn't like when Ashley met the men, she shook their hands. I really didn't like that. I didn't like that her first meeting was a handshake when you're trying to build a rapport or you're trying to see if there's any type of romantic or chemistry between the two of you. Go ahead and hug the man. He is not gonna fondle you at that moment. He's not. I don't think you need to have any fear because what that signal sends to the man is maybe you're not a very warm and caring woman. Maybe you are a woman that doesn't like physical touch. I'm telling you, stop shaking men's hands when you first meet them and you're on a date. If you're in a business meeting, you're at work or something like that, absolutely shake a hand. But hug the people. Just like when Brent met his women, he hugged the women. The women hugged him. Hug the women, hug the men, Ashley, hug the men. It don't have to be a long hug. It doesn't have to be where you caressing and rubbing up on each other, but hug, set the tone. Don't let men put you in the friend zone or the business zone because you met them with a firm handshake. And then another thing I saw with Ashley is when they were all playing this little game called Never Have I Ever, and they all came to the house for game night. Ashley was the one telling the man, can I pour you some wine? No, Ashley, no, you don't pour no wine for no man. What you do is if you want a glass of wine, you ask them, can you pour me a glass of wine? These are small little things that tells me about Ashley. She probably is an assertive woman. She takes control. She needs to learn how to sit back and talk about these cold words of femininity. Let the men do something for you. If you want a glass of wine, ladies, what you do is you say, you know what? I love a glass of that red wine that's sitting on the table. Brent, do you mind, Brent or Mike or Brian, do you mind pouring me a glass of it? You don't get up and pour your own wine, nor do you tell the man, let me pour you a glass. Hell to the no. When Brian first came into the house, a little game dinner, Brent thought it was a red flag that Brian didn't introduce himself to Brent. He said, well, I don't know why Brian will walk up into this house and see me standing here and not come over and say something to me. I agree with Brent, but you know what? I think that goes back to Brian and how he covers his face. He covers his face with his dreads. He covers his face with his beard. I think there's a part of Brian, I think maybe we'll learn it later on. Maybe there's a part of Brian that's shy, that's introverted, that kind of sinks because of his dress. He's covered up completely with clothes. I'm telling you, he's got his hair down his face, his beard. I don't know if it's necessarily because he's a rude person, but it could be that just maybe he isn't an outgoing person. Maybe he's an introvert. Maybe he didn't feel comfortable going over to Brent. So I'm not going to say it's all the way a red flag because he's disrespectful. But I do agree that when you walk into a house and you see another person in the house, especially another man, you should walk over to that man and introduce yourself to him. Absolutely, you should. I do agree on that. They played this little game about never have I ever, never have I ever. And then I thought, oh, now it's about to get a little saucy. Now it's gonna get a little bit saucy. So let's see what's going to happen at this Never Have I Ever game. And then, they ask some little questions like, have you ever had a one night stand? Take a drink if you've had. Have you ever had dated your best friend's ex? And shoot, when they asked that question, Brent had to take a drink. You be double dipping on your friends, girlfriends. It's too many men and women out here to be dating your friends' exes. Now, when I say friends, I mean somebody you were friends with, not somebody you knew of 3 and 4 down the line. I'm talking about a friend. I would never date one of my friends' exes. Wouldn't do it. Never would do it. But he said, have you ever had a one night stand? And everybody was drinking. Brent drank, Mike drank, Brian drank, Michelle drank, and Ashley was over here. She wasn't drinking nothing. And they were like, oh, she must be a goody girl. She must be a goody two shoes because she ain't drinking on. Have you had one night stand? Have you dated a best friend? What was the other one? Have you had sex in the pool? She didn't drink on that. Have you ever been arrested? She asked, have you ever been arrested? And all the men drank on have you been arrested? I don't know. Is that stereotyping black men when they say all black men have been arrested? It don't say what for. It may not be nothing real criminal. Maybe it was just something like, I don't know, drinking in public. Who knows what it's for? But they all drank on that. They all have been arrested. They were like, but then what they got her on? Brent was the one that got her on one. He said, have you ever gone through somebody's phone? And then boom, bingo, they got her. And then Ashley had to drink because she said she gone through a man's phone. She has gone through a man's phone. And then they had this other question was like, have you ever faked an orgasm? And, Michelle had to drink up on that. But then you had a Brent who drank up on that one. Everybody looked at him kind of strange with like, how did you fake an orgasm? And he said he called it semen retention. I was still kind of confused. I don't know. Some of y'all drop down in the comments and let me know what that meant. If you watch it, and there's going to be a part in there where he says he practiced semen retention. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't know what that meant. Does that mean he held it in? I just didn't know what that meant. But he started talking about how it's good for you. It's good for the brain. I was like, semen retention, is that? So that means you didn't orgasm? Is that what it means? I don't know. It kind of confused me. But he was going on telling the women, I don't want no woman that's going to overtalk me or talk me down. I want her to be feminine. That's the new code word out here now. Every man. I want a woman who's feminine. I want a woman who's feminine. That's the new hot thing. That it's like fashion. It's like what fashion is in style, what hairstyle is in style. The new thing that's in style with these men out here now is a femininity. That is the new code word, and what is in style with all men now is a femininity. I want a feminine woman. I want a femininity woman. But anyway, like I said, I enjoyed the show. I'm going to watch it next week. I hope you guys watch it as well. Like I said, so now we got Lisa moving on to round 2 to move into the house. And then we also have Brian moving on into the house with Ashley and Brent. And so the previews look a little spicy. The previews did look a little spicy. So I'm going to keep watching it. And I hope you guys will join me. That's it. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.